The subtle click of the boardroom door closing behind me was almost as satisfying as the expression on Nathan's face when I walked in. For 3 years he'd passed me in hallways, barely acknowledging my existence as I quietly emptied his trash, bin, or wiped down the conference tables. "Just the cleaning lady," he'd mutter whenever I accidentally interrupted his important business calls. But today, as I took my seat at the head of the table, the polished nameplate in front of me reading, Eleanor Wilson, CEO and founder, I couldn't help but savor the moment his coffee cup froze midway to his lips. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." "Mrs. Wilson?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't understand." I smiled, smoothing down my tailored navy suit, quite different from the gray maintenance uniform he was accustomed to seeing me in. "Hello, Nathan. I believe you know me as Rebecca's mother, or perhaps more familiarly as just the cleaning lady. Shall we begin the meeting?" I never planned to be invisible. There's something almost magical about it, though, the way people speak freely around you when they think you don't matter. I've learned more about Meridian Technologies by emptying trash cans than most executives learn in their corner offices. My journey began 40 years ago in Blue Harbor, a coastal town where dreams either sailed away with the tide or sank beneath the weight of practicality. I was 20 when I met Marcus Wilson, a brilliant young engineer with a head full of ideas and pockets empty of cash. We fell in love fast, married young, and built our first business in our garage, fixing computers for local shops when most people barely understood what computers were. "Ellie," Marcus would say, "someday people will have these in every home, and we'll be ready when they do." He was right, of course. By the time our daughter Rebecca was born, Wilson Technical Solutions had expanded to 3 locations along the coast. Then came the expansion to Riverside Plaza, the investment rounds, the transformation into Meridian Technologies, and eventually, Marcus's heart attack at 55. Suddenly, I was a widow with a 17-year-old daughter and a company that had grown beyond anything we'd imagined in that little garage. The board was nervous. A former secretary turned co-owner taking the reins? Most expected me to sell my shares and walk away. Victor Ramirez, our longest-serving board member and my dear friend, suggested something different. "Let them underestimate you, Ellie," he said during a late dinner at Sunrise Cafe, 2 weeks after the funeral. "It's the greatest advantage. In business." That night, we crafted a plan. On paper, I would step down. A new CEO would be appointed, a figurehead who understood their actual role. Meanwhile, I would maintain controlling interest through complex ownership structures that Victor helped establish. Board decisions would still require my approval, executed through Victor as my proxy. "But what will you do?" Victor had asked, concerned about how I would fill my days. I smiled, remembering how Marcus and I used to walk the floors of our first shop, talking to every employee, understanding every aspect of our operation. "I'm going back to basics." 3 months later, I joined the maintenance staff at Meridian Technologies headquarters under my maiden name, Eleanor Martinez. Only 4 people knew my true identity: Victor, Daniel Chen in HR, my daughter Rebecca, and my lawyer. To everyone else, I was just another middle-aged woman in a gray uniform pushing a cleaning cart. For 7 years, this arrangement worked beautifully. I watched my company grow from the ground up, quite literally. I knew which departments stayed latest, which managers treated their teams with respect, which executives wasted company resources. I made subtle suggestions through Victor, who brought them to the board as his own insights. Meridian thrived. Then Rebecca met Nathan Parker. He was everything I'd warned her against, charming on the surface, but with an undercurrent of arrogance that set my teeth on edge. He worked in Meridian's marketing department, climbing ranks with an aggression that impressed his superiors, but left a trail of resentment among his colleagues. I watched him from behind my cleaning cart, noting how he took credit for his team's ideas how he spoke sweetly to those above him and dismissively to those below. "Mom, he's different with me," Rebecca insisted when I cautiously expressed my concerns. "You don't see how thoughtful he is when we're alone." Perhaps he was. Love has a way of revealing our better selves, at least temporarily. I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt until the Christmas party incident. Meridian's annual holiday celebration was a lavish affair held at the Grand Summit Hotel. As a member of the maintenance staff, I wasn't invited, but I attended anyway. Not as Eleanor Martinez, the cleaner, but as a donor to the children's charity being honored that evening. With my hair styled differently and dressed in an elegant black gown, I doubted anyone would connect me to the woman who cleaned their offices. I was at the bar when I overheard Nathan speaking to Stephanie Langley, his department head. "The Parker family doesn't do small career moves," he was saying, swirling amber liquid in his crystal tumbler. "My father built his firm from nothing. I plan to be sitting in your chair within 2 years, then the executive floor after that." Stephanie laughed. "Ambitious. I like that. What does your fiancé think about these grand plans?" Nathan's dismissive wave sent a chill down my spine. "Becky? She's happy playing house and doing her little graphic design projects. Her mother was just a secretary who got lucky marrying the right guy. The apple doesn't fall far. Becky's not exactly career-driven." My grip tightened around my champagne flute. The casual disrespect toward both my daughter and myself burned, but it was his next words that truly froze my blood. "Did you know her mother works as a cleaner now? Literally. Scrubs toilets for a living. Becky wants to invite her to the wedding, but I'm trying to limit her visibility. Not exactly the connection I need advertised while I'm moving up." Stephanie's uncomfortable laugh suggested even she found this distasteful. "Everyone starts somewhere, Nathan." "Some people also end there," he replied with a smirk. "Just grateful Becky got her looks from her mom and not her ambition." I slipped away before I could hear more, my mind racing. That night, I called Rebecca, intending to tell her everything about Nathan, about Meridian, about who I really was. But when she answered, bubbling with excitement about wedding venues they'd visited that day, I couldn't bring myself to shatter her happiness. Not yet. Instead, I called Victor. "It's time for the next phase," I told him, my voice steadier than I expected. "The cleaning experiment has given me everything I needed to know." 2 days later, Daniel Chen from HR requested a meeting with Eleanor Martinez. With compassionate eyes, he explained that budget cuts were forcing reductions in the maintenance staff, but he'd arranged a generous severance package. As he spoke, I felt a weight lifting, one chapter ending as another began. "I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Daniel," I said, signing the paperwork with a flourish. "But I won't be needing new employment." His knowing smile was our shared secret. "It's been an honor, Mrs. Wilson." That evening, as I cleared out my small locker in the maintenance room, Jamal Washington, another cleaner who'd become a friend, leaned against the wall watching me with concerned eyes. "They can't just let you go, Ellie. You've been here longer than most of the suits upstairs. My cousin's firm is hiring. It's across town, but pays better than this place ever did." I hugged him, genuinely touched. "I'll be just fine, Jamal. This isn't an ending for me." "Well, their loss," he grumbled. "Nobody knows this building like you do. Those fancy executives don't even see how the place actually runs." His words stayed with me as I drove home to my modest house in Pinewood District. Jamal was right. I knew Meridian better than anyone precisely because I'd been invisible to those in power. The question now was how to use that knowledge. Rebecca and Nathan announced their engagement officially the following week. Over dinner at an overpriced restaurant Nathan had selected, I watched my daughter glow with happiness while her fiancé detailed their future together: a house in Westlake Heights, country club memberships, the right private schools eventually. "And where do you fit into these plans, Mom?" Rebecca asked, reaching for my hand across the table. Before I could answer, Nathan interjected. "We'll have you over for Sunday dinners, of course, once we're settled." His patronizing tone made my fingers twitch, but decades of business negotiations had taught me when to hold my cards close. I simply smiled. "That sounds lovely, though I do have some changes coming in my own life as well." "Oh?" Rebecca perked up. "What kind of changes?" Nathan checked his watch, clearly uninterested in whatever a woman my age might be planning. "I've decided it's time to retire from maintenance work," I said carefully. "I'm considering other opportunities." Nathan barely concealed his relief. "That's good to hear. Honestly, Becky's been worried about you. A woman your age shouldn't be on her hands and knees scrubbing floors. Maybe something seated would be better. Reception. Work somewhere?" Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The condescension in his voice was thick enough to slice. Rebecca shot him a warning look, but I just laughed softly. "I have some savings," I said mildly. "I might take some time to explore my options." Later, as Rebecca walked me to my car, she apologized for Nathan's behavior. "He means well, Mom. He just doesn't understand our family." I cupped her cheek in my hand. "No, honey, he certainly doesn't. But he will." The next morning, I called Victor from Sunrise Cafe, our usual meeting spot tucked away from Meridian's main campus. The early light streamed through windows, catching on the silver in Victor's hair as he stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "The board meeting is scheduled for next Friday," he confirmed. "Nathan's department is presenting their 5-year marketing strategy. From what I hear, he's positioned himself to take substantial credit." I nodded, opening a sleek leather portfolio that contained documents I'd been preparing for months. "Perfect timing. I've completed my assessment of operations. 7 years was more than enough to identify where we're succeeding and where we're vulnerable." Victor's eyes crinkled at the corners. "The invisible CEO has collected her intelligence. Should I be worried about my own performance review?" "You've been my most valuable ally, Victor. But yes, I've been watching everyone." I slid a folder across the table. "Including the marketing department. Nathan's strategy isn't original. It's pieced together from ideas his team developed and one particularly innovative proposal from Olivia Thompson that he buried because it contradicted his approach." Victor whistled low as he reviewed the documents. "You've been thorough." "When you're invisible, you see everything," I replied, thinking of all the conversations I'd overheard while emptying trash bins, all the documents I'd glimpsed while cleaning desks after hours. Not corporate espionage, just the natural consequence of people treating maintenance staff as furniture. "Are you ready for this?" Victor asked, his expression serious. "Once you step into that boardroom as Eleanor Wilson, there's no going back to anonymity." I thought about Nathan's dismissive comments, about Rebecca's future with a man who valued status over substance, about the company Marcus and I had built from nothing. "I've been ready for years," I said, closing my portfolio with finality. "It's time for Eleanor Wilson to step out of the shadows." As I drove home, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. Marcus and I had never been driven by wealth or status. We started our company because we believed in the work, in creating something meaningful. When I chose to step back and observe Meridian from the ground level, it wasn't just strategic. It was a return to our roots, to understanding what we were building and why. The truth was, I could have revealed myself years ago. I could have waltzed into the executive suite any day and reclaimed my office. But watching Meridian grow from the maintenance department had given me insights I would never have gained from behind a CEO's desk. I knew which managers stayed late to help their teams meet deadlines. I knew which executives treated maintenance staff with dignity and which ones couldn't be bothered to learn our names. Most importantly, I had seen my company's true culture, not the one proclaimed in mission statements, but the one lived in daily interactions when people thought no one important was watching. As I turned onto my street in Pinewood, I passed Mrs. Gallagher walking her terrier. She waved enthusiastically. "Eleanor, are you coming to the community center fundraiser on Saturday? We need your famous lemon bars." I smiled, promising to bring 2 batches. This was another part of my life Nathan couldn't comprehend. How deeply I valued my connections here in Pinewood. My neighbors knew me as Eleanor the widow, generous with her baking and her time, who somehow managed on a cleaner's salary but never missed a community fundraiser. They had supported me after Marcus died, bringing casseroles and company when the silence in my home became too heavy to bear. My phone rang as I parked in my driveway. Rebecca. "Mom, are you free for lunch tomorrow? There's something I need to talk to you about." The tension in her voice sent maternal alarms ringing. "Of course, sweetheart. Everything okay?" "Just wedding stuff, Nathan thinks." She hesitated. "Can we just talk tomorrow?" We arranged to meet at a small bistro halfway between her design studio and my home. After hanging up, I stood in my driveway looking at my modest house, with its carefully tended garden. Marcus had planted those rose bushes the year before he died. "Something beautiful that'll last," he'd said, not knowing how little time he had left. Inside, I changed from my public clothes into comfortable slacks and a soft sweater, then made tea and settled at my kitchen table with the files Victor had given me. Documents about Meridian's current operations, financial reports, personnel, changes. Everything I needed to review before stepping back into my role as CEO. The company had grown exponentially since I'd stepped into the shadows. What had begun in our garage was now an international technology firm with thousands of employees. Yet reviewing these files, I could see places where Meridian had drifted from its original mission. Quarterly profits had become the driving force, rather than innovation and impact. That would be the first thing to address. My phone pinged with a message from Daniel Chen. "Paperwork complete. Security badges and system access restored for Friday." It was really happening. After 7 years of watching from the margins, I was reclaiming my place. Not just for my own satisfaction, or even to put Nathan in his place, but because Meridian needed course correction, and I was uniquely positioned to provide it. That night, I dreamed of Marcus. We were back in our first tiny office, surrounded by computer parts and ambitious plans. "They don't see you, Ellie," he said, his smile warm and familiar. "That's their mistake." I woke with tears on my cheeks but determination in my heart. Friday couldn't come soon enough. The next day, Rebecca was already waiting when I arrived at the bistro, fidgeting with her napkin, a nervous habit since childhood. She looked up with relief when I slid into the chair across from her. "Mom, you look nice. New sweater?" "Old sweater, actually. Just haven't worn it in a while." I reached for her restless hands. "What's going on, Becky? You've been twisting that napkin since I walked in." She bit her lip, another childhood tell. "It's about the wedding. Nathan thinks. He feels it would be better if we had a smaller ceremony than we originally planned." "Smaller is often more intimate," I offered carefully. "If that's what you want." "It's not just the size." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "He wants to change the guest list. He thinks it should be more curated." Understanding dawned. He doesn't want my friends there. Rebecca's silence was confirmation enough. "He says his family is very image conscious," she finally mumbled. "And that having too many people from different backgrounds might make things uncomfortable." "Different backgrounds," I repeated flatly. "You mean people who work with their hands? People from Pinewood? People like Jamal who've been my friends for years?" "Mom, please don't make this harder. I've already fought with him about it." I took a deep breath, restraining the mama bear instinct to protect my cub. who, I had to remind myself, was a 32-year-old woman making her own choices. "What does the guest list have to do with me specifically?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Rebecca's voice dropped to nearly a whisper. "He thinks it would be better if you weren't so obviously connected to the maintenance staff at his company, just for the wedding and when his family visits." The pieces clicked into place. He's embarrassed by my job. I told him it's ridiculous, that I'm proud of you no matter what you do. Tears welled in her eyes. But his parents are so status conscious and he's up for this big promotion. I squeezed her hands, my heart breaking for her impossible position. "Rebecca, look at me. You never, ever have to apologize for where you come from or who your mother is." "I know that," she insisted. "I just don't know how to make him understand." A server appeared to take our orders, giving me a moment to collect my thoughts. When we were alone again, I asked, "Do you love him, Rebecca? Truly?" She nodded without hesitation. "He can be thoughtless sometimes, but he loves me. He's driven and smart, and when we're alone, he's different." I studied my daughter's face, so like Marcus's with those earnest eyes that couldn't hide. A single emotion. She believed what she was saying, but I'd seen Nathan's true colors when he thought no one of consequence was watching. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "people show you who they are in small moments when they think it doesn't matter. Those moments often tell you more than the grand gestures." "Mom, please." Rebecca's voice held a note of desperation. Can we just get through the wedding? Maybe once we're married, once he gets to know you better?" "What exactly did Nathan ask you to tell me?" I interrupted gently. She swallowed hard. "He thinks it would be better if you said you were retired. Not specifically mention the cleaning job. And maybe we could get you a new dress for the rehearsal dinner. Something more appropriate for his social circle?" I finished for her. The lunch that followed was tense despite our mutual efforts to change the subject. Rebecca kept returning to wedding details, assuring me repeatedly that she'd told Nathan I would be as involved as any mother of the bride should be. As we parted outside the restaurant, she hugged me tightly. "I love you, Mom. No matter what. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." I pulled back to look into her eyes. "And that's why I need you to trust me in the coming days. Can you do that?" She looked confused but nodded. "Of course. What's going on?" "Just some changes I've been planning." I kissed her cheek. "Everything will be clearer after Friday." Back in my car, I checked my phone to find several messages from Victor confirming final arrangements for the board meeting. Everything was in place. In less than 48 hours, Nathan Parker would discover exactly who he'd been dismissing as just a cleaner. That evening, I opened the back of my closet where a garment bag had been hanging for years. Inside was a tailored navy suit I'd purchased months ago for this very moment. Classic, elegant, powerfully understated. I tried it on, standing before the mirror to assess the transformation from Eleanor the cleaner to Eleanor the CEO. The woman who stared back at me wasn't just switching outfits, she was reclaiming her identity. For 7 years, I'd chosen invisibility as a strategic advantage. I'd scrubbed floors, emptied trash, and dusted shelves in the company I co-founded. I'd watched and learned and prepared. Now, it was time to be seen. Thursday morning arrived with a peculiar sense of calm. After 7 years of preparation, the final 24 hours before my revelation felt almost anticlimactic. I went through my usual routine, early coffee on the porch, a quick check of the financial news, and then a walk through the neighborhood. Mrs. Gallagher waved from her garden. "Eleanor, don't forget about those lemon bars for Saturday." "Already on my shopping list," I assured her with a smile. This was the life Nathan looked down on, a quiet existence in a middle-class neighborhood where people knew each other's names, and borrowing a cup of sugar wasn't an antiquated concept. If he could see beyond the modest houses and practical cars, he might recognize something his ambition hadn't yet grasped: genuine community. My phone buzzed with a message from Victor. Final preparations complete. Daniel has arranged access. Kate Fisher arrived early from London and sends her regards. Kate was one of our original investors and a close friend of Marcus's. She'd been in on my plan from the beginning, finding it both amusing and strategically brilliant. Her support on the board had been invaluable over the years. Please thank Kate for making the trip, I texted back. See you tomorrow at 9. The day stretched before me, my last day of anonymity. I decided to use it wisely. My first stop was Meridian Technologies, not as an employee, but as a visitor. The security guard at the front desk, Hector, did a double take when I approached without my maintenance uniform. Mrs. Martinez? Almost didn't recognize you. I thought they let you go. I smiled at his genuine concern. They did, Hector. Just visiting an old friend today. Well, you look real nice. Professional-like. I'd chosen business casual attire. Nothing as formal as tomorrow's suit, but a far cry from my maintenance uniform. As Hector processed my visitor badge, I noticed a framed photo on his desk showing him with a young woman in a graduation cap and gown. Your daughter's graduation? His face lit up. Yes, ma'am. First in our family to finish college. Engineering degree from State University. That's wonderful, Hector. You must be very proud. Proudest day of my life. She's interviewing with tech companies now. Hoping maybe even here someday. I made a mental note to have Daniel Chen look into Hector's daughter's application if she applied. Meridian needed more employees who understood the value of hard work and family support. Badge in hand, I made my way to the maintenance department on the lower level. The familiar industrial hallway with its fluorescent lighting and utilitarian decor felt like visiting a childhood home. Comfortable in its familiarity, yet somehow smaller than remembered. Jamal was refilling his cart when I arrived. His face broke into a wide grin when he spotted me. Ellie, looking sharp! He abandoned his supplies to give me a quick hug. You here to beg for your job back already? I laughed. Just stopping by to say hello, and to give you this. I handed him an envelope containing a handwritten invitation to my reveal party. A small gathering I'd planned for Saturday night after the community center fundraiser. I'd prepared similar invitations for several other maintenance workers who'd shown me kindness over the years. Jamal looked confused. What's this about? A new chapter in my life. I'd really like you to be there. He studied my face. You're being mysterious, Ellie. Got yourself a rich boyfriend or something? Nothing like that, I assured him. Just changes. Good ones. We chatted for a few more minutes about his son's baseball team and his wife's promotion at the Eye Hospital where she worked as a nurse. When we parted, he hugged me again, a bit longer this time. Whatever you're up to, I'm happy for you. You deserve good things, Ellie. His sincerity touched me. In 7 years of cleaning alongside Jamal, I'd never revealed my true identity, yet he'd shown me consistent respect and friendship. Something Nathan, with all his knowledge of my relationship to Rebecca, had never managed. My next stop was the 28th floor. As I stepped off the elevator into the executive suite, the receptionist glanced up with the slightly puzzled expression of someone trying to place a familiar face in an unfamiliar context. Can I help you? I have an appointment with Daniel. Chen? I explained smoothly. Her expression cleared. Of course. Your name? Eleanor Wilson. If she recognized the name, she gave no indication. She simply picked up her phone, murmured a few words, and then gestured toward the hallway. Mr. Chen's office is third door on the right. Daniel was waiting in his doorway, his professional demeanor betrayed only by the slight twinkle in his eyes. Mrs. Wilson, please come in. He closed the door behind me, then broke into a wide smile. The transformation is already remarkable. I almost didn't recognize you when security called up. Amazing what a change of clothes and hairstyle can accomplish, I agreed, settling into the chair across from his desk. Everything ready for tomorrow? Daniel nodded, pulling a folder from his drawer. Access cards, security clearance, updated, email accounts, all set. The executive team has been notified of an important board announcement, but I've kept the details confidential as requested. He handed me the folder containing everything I'd need to officially reclaim my identity at Meridian. After 7 years of working through Victor as my proxy, these simple corporate credentials felt strangely significant. How are you feeling about all this? Daniel asked, his expression softening. I considered the question carefully. Ready, though I'll miss certain aspects of anonymity. I can imagine. Not many CEOs get to hear what people really say when they think no one important is listening. It's been educational, I agreed dryly. We spent the next hour reviewing personnel changes and department restructuring that had occurred during my time in maintenance. Daniel had been my eyes and ears in HR, quietly keeping me informed of the company's internal evolution while I observed its culture from below. As our meeting concluded, Daniel walked me to the elevator. Will you be coming in through the executive entrance tomorrow? I shook my head. Front lobby. I want to walk through the building one last time as myself. He nodded, understanding. See you tomorrow, then. It's been an honor being part of this, Mrs. Wilson. My final stop of the day was more personal. I drove to Westlake Heights, the affluent neighborhood where Rebecca and Nathan had purchased their first home together. The tree-lined streets were pristine, the houses impressive without being ostentatious. It was beautiful, certainly, but also somehow sterile, lacking the lived-in character of Pinewood. Rebecca answered the door looking surprised. Mom, I wasn't expecting you. Thought I'd drop by. Is this a bad time? No, come in. She ushered me inside, glancing at my outfit with raised eyebrows. You look nice. Interview somewhere? The house was immaculate, modern furniture arranged just so, artwork carefully selected to impress. It was lovely but felt more like a showroom than a home. No interview, I answered, following her into the kitchen where design magazines were spread across the counter. Just making some changes in my life. I wanted to check in after our conversation yesterday. Rebecca busied herself making tea, avoiding my eyes. It's fine, Mom. Really. I talked to Nathan again, and he agreed that you should absolutely be as involved as you want to be in the wedding planning. How generous of him, I remarked mildly. She shot me a look. He's trying, Mom. I decided to change tactics. Are these your design ideas for the Morrison account? I gestured to her open sketchbook. The tension in her shoulders eased as we moved to safer ground. Yes, they wanted something modern but still approachable. What do you think? As Rebecca walked me through her designs, I saw echoes of Marcus in her creativity, the same intuitive understanding of what would resonate with people. She'd inherited his artistic eye and my practicality, a powerful combination that had made her one of the most sought-after graphic designers in the city. These are beautiful, sweetheart. The Morrison Company would be foolish not to love them. She beamed at the praise. Thanks, Mom. The presentation is next week and I'm a little nervous. You'll be magnificent, I assured her. You always are. We settled in her living room with our tea, and for a while, it was just mother and daughter talking about everyday things. Her wedding plans, my garden, the community center fundraiser. I studied her as we chatted, this remarkable young woman who had grown up in the shadow of Meridian Technologies, yet had forged her own path. Rebecca, I said during a lull in the conversation, what do you know about what your father and I did, about how we started our company? She looked surprised by the question. You had a computer repair shop, right? Then it grew into something bigger after Dad got some patents. That's the simplified version, I acknowledged. But there's more to the story. For the next hour, I filled in the gaps in her understanding. How Marcus and I had worked 80-hour weeks in the beginning, how we'd mortgaged everything to fund our first expansion, how we'd built Meridian from nothing but determination and vision. Your father was the engineering genius, I explained, but I handled the business side. We were partners in every sense. Rebecca listened intently, occasionally asking questions. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Why are you telling me all this now? Because I want you to understand where you come from, I said, gently. And because there are some changes coming that will affect you too. Her brow furrowed. What kind of changes? The sound of a car in the driveway interrupted us. Rebecca glanced at her watch. That's Nathan. He's home early. I stood, gathering my purse. I should go. No, stay. Have dinner with us. Her eagerness to have Nathan and me in the same room was touching, if misguided. Another time, I promised, kissing her cheek. I have preparations to make for tomorrow. She walked me to the door, still confused. Mom, what's happening tomorrow? Something I've been planning for a very long time, I assured her. I'll call you afterward. Nathan was just getting out of his car as I descended the front steps. He looked surprised to see me, quickly masking it with a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. Eleanor, didn't expect to see you here. Just visiting my daughter, I replied pleasantly. He glanced at my outfit with poorly concealed approval. Job interview? Rebecca mentioned you were looking for something different. Something like that. An awkward silence fell between us. Nathan shifted his weight, clearly impatient to get inside but constrained by social niceties to make conversation. Well, good luck with whatever it is, he finally said, moving past me toward the house. Rebecca's been worried about you. I placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. Nathan, may I ask you something? He turned, wary. Of course. What do you value most in life? The question clearly caught him off guard. What do you mean? It's a simple question. When everything else is stripped away, what matters most to you? He glanced toward the house where Rebecca was visible through the window. Success, I suppose. Providing a good life for Rebecca and our future family. And what does success look like to you? His expression grew more guarded. With all due respect, Eleanor, I'm not sure why you're asking these questions. Just trying to understand my future son-in-law better, I said mildly. After all, you're marrying my only daughter. That makes us family. Something flashed in his eyes, annoyance perhaps, or discomfort at the reminder of our permanent connection. Success means different things to different people, he said carefully. For some, it's a modest life with simple pleasures. For others, like myself, it's about achievement, recognition, building something significant. And what are you building, Nathan? His smile turned patronizing. A career, Eleanor. Security for your daughter. A legacy. I nodded, noting how quickly he'd shifted to reminding me of what he was giving Rebecca, as though she were a passive recipient of his ambitions, rather than a talented professional in her own right. Well, I wish you luck with tomorrow's presentation, I said, stepping back. I hear the board is quite interested in your marketing strategy. His eyes narrowed slightly. How did you? He stopped himself, recalibrating. Thank you. I'm confident it will be well received. As I walked to my car, I felt his eyes following me, likely wondering how the mother of his fiancée, a woman who cleaned offices for a living, would know about his upcoming board presentation. A small preview of tomorrow's much larger revelation. That evening, I laid out everything for the next day. My navy suit, pearl earrings that had been a gift from Marcus on our 20th anniversary, the folder containing my notes for the board meeting. Then I made myself a simple dinner and carried it out to my back patio. The garden was peaceful in the fading light. Marcus's roses were in full bloom, their scent sweetening the air. I thought about how much had changed since we'd started our little repair shop in Blue Harbor, how far we'd come from those early days of uncertainty and excitement. "I wish you could be there tomorrow," I murmured to the empty chair beside me. "You'd appreciate the look on Nathan's face." My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. "Victor." "Everything set for tomorrow?" he asked when I answered. "All ready," I confirmed. "How are things on your end?" The board is curious about this special announcement. Stephanie from marketing has been asking questions. Apparently, Nathan mentioned to her that he's presenting a comprehensive strategy that will change Meridian's future. I smiled at the irony. "Well, tomorrow certainly will change Meridian's future, though not in the way Nathan expects." Victor was quiet for a moment. "Ellie, are you sure about this? It's not too late to ease into it more gradually. We could start by introducing you as a major shareholder, then transition to your full role over time. 7 years is gradual enough, Victor," I replied firmly. "Meridian needs clear leadership now, not more shadows and proxies." "And this has nothing to do with putting your future son-in-law in his place?" His tone was gently teasing. "That's merely a convenient bonus," I admitted. "The company needs realignment with its original mission. Nathan's presentation is actually perfectly timed. His strategy represents exactly the direction I don't want Meridian to take." We discussed a few final details before ending the call. As I prepared for bed, I felt a strange mixture of anticipation and nostalgia. Tomorrow would mark the end of Eleanor Martinez, the Invisible Observer, and the return of Eleanor Wilson, CEO and founder. Both were authentic parts of me, but only one had the power to shape Meridian's future. Sleep came surprisingly easily, and I woke before my alarm feeling refreshed and focused. I took my time getting ready, savoring the ritual of transformation. The Eleanor who stood before the mirror in her tailored suit bore little resemblance to the woman who had pushed a cleaning cart through Meridian's hallways for 7 years. Yet, they were the same person. The exterior had changed, but the core remained. I arrived at Meridian's headquarters at precisely 8:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the board meeting was scheduled to begin. As promised to Daniel, I entered through the main lobby rather than the executive entrance. Hector did a double-take when he saw me approach his security desk. "Mrs. Martinez? Wow, you look different." I smiled. "Good morning, Hector. I have a meeting upstairs." He checked his visitor log, looking confused. "I don't see you on today's list. Let me call up to verify." "That won't be necessary," I said, placing my new access card on his desk. "I believe this will work." He examined the card, his eyes widening when he saw the name and clearance level. His head snapped up, mouth slightly open. "Mrs. Wilson? As in—" "Yes, Hector. Exactly as in." He stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. "Ma'am, I had no idea. All these years. Why didn't you— I mean—" "It's a long story," I assured him, "and I hope to share it with you properly sometime. For now, I have a board meeting to attend." He hastily returned my card, still looking stunned. "Of course, Mrs. Wilson. And may I say, it's an honor to know you." "The honor has been mine, Hector. Your daughter's resume. Make sure it comes directly to my office when she applies." His face lit up. "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you, ma'am." As the elevator carried me upward, I thought about all the Hectors at Meridian, the dedicated employees who formed the backbone of the company, yet were often invisible to those in the executive suites. That perspective was perhaps the most valuable thing I'd gained from my years in maintenance. The 28th floor was bustling with pre-meeting activity when I arrived. Board members mingled near the conference room, coffee cups in hand. Department heads, including Stephanie Langley from marketing, hovered nearby, prepared to be called in for their presentations. Nathan stood slightly apart, reviewing notes on his tablet. He'd clearly dressed for the occasion. Expensive suit, perfectly knotted tie, hair immaculately styled. The very picture of corporate ambition. Victor spotted me first, breaking away from a conversation to approach with a warm smile and extended hand. "Mrs. Wilson, welcome back." His greeting was just loud enough to catch the attention of those nearby. Conversations paused as heads turned in my direction. "Thank you, Victor," I replied, matching his formal tone. "It's good to be back." Kate Fisher was the next to approach, elegant as always in her trademark crimson suit. She embraced me warmly. "About time, Ellie. The secret CEO act was getting a bit tired." Others followed, board members who had been in on the arrangement. Executives who had been briefed that morning by Daniel, all greeting me with varying degrees of surprise and respect. From the corner of my eye, I could see Nathan watching the proceedings with confusion. Stephanie had moved to his side, whispering urgently. His expression shifted from puzzlement to shock as understanding began to dawn. Daniel Chen appeared at my elbow. "The conference room is ready, Mrs. Wilson. We're just waiting for 2 more board members to arrive." "Thank you, Daniel." As we stood waiting, Olivia Thompson from the marketing team approached hesitantly. I recognized her immediately, not just from her personnel file, which I'd reviewed carefully, but from countless moments observing her work while I cleaned the marketing department after hours. "Mrs. Wilson?" she asked tentatively. "I'm Olivia Thompson. I just wanted to introduce myself." "Ms. Thompson?" I acknowledged with a smile. "I'm familiar with your work. Your proposal on sustainable marketing practices was quite impressive." Her eyes widened. You've seen that? But Mr. Parker said it wasn't ready to present to leadership yet." "I have my sources," I replied, glancing briefly in Nathan's direction. "I'd like to discuss it further with you sometime soon." Before she could respond, the remaining board members arrived, and Daniel announced that we were ready to begin. As we moved toward the conference room, I caught Nathan staring at me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and dawning horror. Victor had arranged the seating strategically. My place was at the head of the table, with Nathan positioned to present directly opposite me. As everyone settled, the room grew quiet, anticipation hanging in the air. Victor stood to make the team formal announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board, department heads, team members. As some of you already know, and others are just learning, we have a significant announcement today. For the past 7 years, Meridian Technologies has been operating under a unique management structure, with myself serving as proxy for our majority shareholder and true CEO." He gestured toward me. "I am pleased to formally reintroduce Eleanor Wilson, co-founder of Wilson Technical Solutions, which later became Meridian Technologies. Following the death of her husband, Marcus Wilson, Mrs. Wilson chose to step back from public leadership while maintaining control of company direction. Today, she resumes her rightful position as Chief Executive Officer." The room erupted in murmurs. Board members who had been in on the secret nodded approval, while department heads exchanged surprised glances. Nathan had gone completely still, his face pale. Victor continued. "For those wondering why Mrs. Wilson would choose such an unconventional approach, I'll let her explain in her own words. Eleanor?" I stood, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. "Thank you, Victor. 7 years ago, after my husband's unexpected death, I faced a choice about how to best serve the company we had built together. The obvious path would have been to step directly into the CEO role or to sell my shares and walk away." I moved slowly around the table as I spoke, making eye contact with different people. Instead, I chose a third option, to learn about our company from the ground up, to see Meridian as most of our employees experience it. So I joined the maintenance staff under my maiden name, becoming invisible in plain sight. The silence in the room was absolute. Even those who had known the truth seemed captivated by hearing it directly from me. What I learned was invaluable. I saw which managers stayed late to help their teams meet deadlines. I observed which executives treated all employees with dignity, regardless of their role. I witnessed countless small moments that revealed the true culture of Meridian. Not what was written in our mission statement, but what was lived every day in our hallways and offices. I paused near Nathan's chair. He was staring straight, ahead, jaw clenched. I also saw areas where we've drifted from our founding principles, I continued. Meridian was built on innovation and impact, creating technologies that improve lives, not just quarterly reports. Somewhere along the way, profit became our primary measure of success, rather than a necessary means to achieve our greater purpose. Returning to my seat, I concluded, "Today marks not just my return to leadership, but Meridian's return to its core mission. I look forward to working with all of you to realign our company with the values and vision that made us successful in the first place." Applause broke out, led enthusiastically by Kate Fisher and echoed around the table. Even Stephanie Langley joined in after a moment's hesitation. When the room quieted, Victor spoke again. "We've adjusted today's agenda to accommodate this announcement. However, we still have time for the marketing presentation. Mr. Parker, are you ready to proceed?" All eyes turned to Nathan, who looked like he might be sick. He stood, fumbling with his tablet. Yes, of course." I offered him a pleasant smile. "Please, Mr. Parker, we're all eager to hear your strategy." The irony of the situation wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Nathan Parker, who had dismissed me as just a cleaner, was now presenting his vision for my company's future, to me, its founder and CEO. As he began his presentation, I could see sweat beading on his forehead. His voice, usually confident to the point of arrogance, wavered slightly. The marketing strategy he outlined was exactly as I'd expected, focused on aggressive growth and market dominance with little attention to the social impact that had been central to Meridian's original mission. When he finished, there was polite applause. Several board members glanced my way, clearly waiting for my response. "Thank you, Mr. Parker," I said evenly. "Your presentation was illuminating." I turned to Stephanie. "Ms. Langley, I understand there was another proposal developed by your team. Something about sustainable marketing practices?" Stephanie shot a panicked look at Nathan. "Yes, Mrs. Wilson. Olivia Thompson drafted it, but we decided it wasn't mature enough for presentation." "I'd like to see it," I said firmly. "In fact, I'd like Ms. Thompson to present it now if she's prepared." Olivia straightened in her chair, looking simultaneously terrified and thrilled. "I can present the key points, Mrs. Wilson, though I don't have formal slides prepared." "That's fine. Sometimes the best ideas don't need elaborate packaging." As Olivia outlined her proposal, which brilliantly integrated sustainability into Meridian's marketing approach while addressing growing consumer demand for ethical technology, I watched Nathan's expression shift from shock to resignation. By the time she concluded, the energy in the room had transformed, with board members leaning forward in genuine interest. "This," I said when Olivia finished, "is the direction Meridian should be moving toward. Innovation that serves a greater purpose, marketing that reflects genuine values rather than just driving consumption. Ms. Thompson, I'd like you to develop this into a comprehensive strategy." I turned back to face the entire room. "As we move forward, all departments will be realigning with Meridian's core mission. We'll be evaluating leadership based not just on financial metrics, but on how well they embody our values and develop their teams." The meeting continued with discussion of next steps and transition plans. Throughout, Nathan remained silent, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. When we adjourned, he was the first to stand, clearly eager to escape. "Mr. Parker," I called, stopping him at the door. "A moment, please." The room emptied quickly, leaving us alone in the conference room. Nathan turned to face me, his expression guarded. "Mrs. Wilson, I had no idea." "Clearly," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. He swallowed hard. "I want to apologize for any misunderstandings that may have occurred. Had I known your position—" "That's precisely the point, isn't it?" I interrupted gently. "You shouldn't need to know someone's position to treat them with dignity." His face flushed. "Of course, I just meant—" "I know what you meant, Nathan. That's what concerns me." I gathered my notes, taking my time. "You know, I've had the unique opportunity to observe you when you thought no one important was watching. I've seen how you treat people you believe can't benefit your career. I've heard what you say about me, about my daughter, when you think it doesn't matter." He paled. "Mrs. Wilson, whatever you think you heard? Was it a misunderstanding when you told Stephanie that Rebecca was happy playing house and doing her little graphic design projects? Or when you described me as just a secretary who got lucky?" "Marrying the right guy?" His mouth opened, then closed without sound. "Or perhaps I misunderstood at the Christmas party when you said you were trying to limit my visibility at your wedding, because it wouldn't help your career to have people know your future mother-in-law scrubs toilets for a living." The blood drained from his face completely. "You were there? But how—" "I've been many places you never noticed me, Nathan. That's the gift of being underestimated. People reveal their true selves when they think you don't matter." I stood, straightening my suit jacket. "I'm not firing you today, though I certainly could. Instead, I'm giving you an opportunity, the same opportunity I've given every employee at Meridian. Prove that you can align with our values, that you can treat everyone with respect regardless of their title or usefulness to your ambitions." His relief was palpable, if cautious. "Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. I appreciate the chance to—" "I'm not finished," I said quietly. "This is a professional opportunity only. As for your personal relationship with my daughter, that's Rebecca's decision, not mine. But know this. I will never stand silently by while you diminish her talents or her worth. She is not an accessory to your ambitions. She is a gifted professional in her own right." I moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. My daughter believes you love her. For her sake, I hope that's true. Because if it is, if you truly love Rebecca more than your own ambition, you'll tell her the truth about today before someone else does." With that, I left him standing alone in the boardroom, confronting perhaps for the first time the consequences of his assumptions. As I walked through the executive suite, my executive suite, employees stopped to stare or offer hesitant congratulations. News travels quickly in any organization, but especially when the revelation is this dramatic. By the time I reached Daniel's office, half the building had likely heard some version of the morning's events. "Well," Daniel said when I entered, "that went about as expected." I sank into a chair, suddenly feeling the weight of the morning. Nathan's face when Victor made the announcement. I wish I'd had a camera. Daniel laughed. "The security footage might be worth reviewing. For quality control purposes, of course." "Of course," I agreed with a smile. He leaned forward, his expression growing serious. "What about Rebecca? Have you talked to her yet?" "Not yet. I wanted to get through the board meeting first." I glanced at my watch. Though I should call her soon before she hears it elsewhere. As if on cue, my phone rang. "Rebecca," I answered immediately. "Rebecca, I was just about to call you." Her voice came through breathless and confused. "Mom, what's going on? Nathan just called me sounding completely panicked, saying something about you being his boss? That can't be right." I took a deep breath. "It's a long story, sweetheart. Are you free for lunch? There's quite a bit I need to explain." I chose Riverside Terrace for lunch with Rebecca, a quiet restaurant overlooking the water, far enough from Meridian's headquarters to avoid running into employees still processing the morning's revelation. The maitre d' recognized me immediately, which felt strange after years of deliberate anonymity. "Mrs. Wilson, how wonderful to see you again. Your usual table is ready." As he led me to a corner table with a panoramic view of the river, I realized how many aspects of my former life I'd set aside during my time in maintenance. This restaurant had once been a regular spot for business lunches with Marcus, a place where deals were made and strategies discussed over excellent food and discreet service. Rebecca arrived 15 minutes later, her expression a mixture of confusion and apprehension. I stood to embrace her, feeling her body tense with uncertainty. "Mom," she began as we sat down, "what is going on?" "Nathan called me completely freaked out, saying something about you being the owner of Meridian? That can't possibly be right." I took a sip of water, gathering my thoughts. "It's not just that I own Meridian, Rebecca. I co-founded it with your father. I'm the CEO. She stared at me, waiting for the punchline to what must have seemed like an elaborate joke. When none came, she shook her head slowly. "No, that's not. You've been working in maintenance there for years. I've picked you up from shifts. I've seen you in the uniform." "Yes," I acknowledged. That part was real. The waiter approached, with menus, but Rebecca waved him away impatiently. "Mom, please explain. I don't understand any of this." So I did. Starting with Marcus's death and the decision I'd made 7 years ago, I walked her through the entire story. The arrangement with Victor, my choice to observe Meridian from the ground up, what I'd learned during my years of invisibility. As I spoke, Rebecca's expression shifted from disbelief to shock, to something approaching awe. She interrupted occasionally with questions, trying to piece together this new reality where her mother, the woman she'd worried might struggle to survive, on a maintenance salary, was actually one of the wealthiest and most powerful businesswomen in the city. "Why didn't you tell me?" she finally asked, hurt evident in her voice. "All these years I've been worried about you, trying to help you find better jobs, offering to help with your bills." "You knew the truth once," I explained gently. "When you were 17, right after your father died, I told you everything about the company. But then you went to college, and we decided it would be better for your development if you could forge your own path without the shadow of Meridian hanging over you." "We decided?" she echoed. "Your father and I had always agreed on this. We wanted you to find your own passion, not feel obligated to join the family business." I reached across the table to take her hand. "And look at you now, one of the most sought-after graphic designers in the city, building your reputation on talent alone." She withdrew her hand, still processing. But the maintenance job? Living in Pinewood? Driving that old car? Was it all just pretend? "None of it was pretend," I assured her. "I chose Pinewood because I genuinely love the community there. The maintenance work was real and valuable. I learned more about Meridian in those 7 years than I ever could have from an executive office." Rebecca shook her head in disbelief. "I can't believe this. My whole life, I thought I knew who you were." "I'm still the same person, sweetheart. The mother who helped with your homework and cheered at your soccer games. The only difference is what you know about me now, not who I am." She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the river. When she turned back, her eyes were sharp, with sudden realization. "Nathan? Did he know? Is that why he's so upset?" I hesitated, weighing how much to reveal. "He learned the truth this morning at the board meeting. He was surprised." "Surprised?" She gave a hollow laugh. "I imagine that's an understatement. He was presenting some big marketing strategy today that he's been working on for weeks." "Yes, he did present it." She studied my face. "And? And it wasn't aligned with the direction I want to take Meridian." Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. "Oh, God." "Rebecca, Nathan is still employed at Meridian. I didn't fire him." "But you could," she said quietly. At any moment. I sighed, deciding honesty was the only way forward. Yes, I could. But that's not my intention as long as he performs his job well and treats people respectfully. The waiter approached again, and this time I ordered for both of us. A small liberty, taken to move our conversation forward. When he left, Rebecca was watching me with new eyes, as though seeing me clearly for the first time. What else don't I know about you? She asked. Probably quite a bit, I admitted. But not because I've been deliberately hiding things from you. We all show different facets of ourselves in different contexts. Like being a CEO in the boardroom and a cleaner in the hallway? Her tone was halfway between accusation and wonder. I smiled. Something like that. Our food arrived, providing a welcome pause in the intensity of our conversation. As we ate, Rebecca's questions became more practical, about the company's structure, my plans now that I'd revealed myself, how the board had reacted. Does this mean you're moving out of Pinewood? She asked between bites of her salad. Absolutely. Not. It's my home. Why would I leave? She gestured vaguely at our surroundings. Because you can afford all of this. Westlake Heights, a mansion, whatever you want. I've always been able to afford those things, Rebecca. I chose Pinewood because it's where I'm happy. The neighbors know me, the real me, not my bank account or my title. Understanding slowly dawned in her eyes. That's why you were so upset about Nathan not wanting your friends at the wedding. It wasn't just about them being from Pinewood. It was about him judging people's worth by their perceived status. I finished for her. Something I've had. Unique perspective on these past 7 years. She pushed her plate away, appetite gone. Did Nathan? Did he say something to you? When he thought you were just the cleaning lady? This was the moment of truth. How much to tell my daughter about the man she planned to marry? I chose my words carefully. Nathan treated me the way he treats most people he doesn't think can benefit his career, with casual dismissal. It wasn't personal. It was simply who he is when he thinks no one important is watching. Rebecca's face flushed. That's not fair. You don't know him like I do. You're right, I acknowledged. I only know what I've observed, and people often reveal their true character in how they treat those they consider beneath them. She was silent for a long moment. What did he say about me? I know he must have said something for you to look at me that way. I hesitated. Rebecca. Please, Mom. I need to know. I took a deep breath. He told Stephanie Langley that you were happy playing house and doing your little graphic design projects, that you weren't career-driven because you took after me, just a secretary who got lucky marrying the right guy. The color drained from her face. When did he say this? At the Christmas party. I was there as a donor to the children's charity. She shook her head in disbelief. No, he wouldn't say that. He's always been supportive of my work. To your face, yes. Rebecca pushed back from the table abruptly. I need to talk to him. Of course. I signaled for the check. Take whatever time you need to process all of this. It's a lot to absorb in one day. As we walked to the restaurant entrance, Rebecca suddenly stopped and turned to me. All those times you encouraged me to pursue my design work, to negotiate better rates for myself, to stand up to clients who tried to undervalue me. You weren't just being a supportive mom, were you? You were teaching me what you already knew. I smiled softly. Both can be true. She hugged me then, unexpectedly fierce. I don't know whether to be angry at you for keeping all this from me or proud that you're, well, you. You can be both, I assured her. Those aren't mutually exclusive. We parted in the parking lot with a promise to talk again soon. As I watched her drive away, I wondered if I'd done the right thing revealing Nathan's comments. The truth was necessary, but potentially devastating. Only time would tell if their relationship could withstand it. Back at Meridian, the atmosphere, had transformed in just a few hours. Word of my true identity had spread through every department. As I walked from the parking garage to the executive elevator, no more hiding in service corridors, employees stopped to stare or offer hesitant greetings. Daniel Chen was waiting in my office, my actual office, not the modest maintenance locker I'd used for 7 years. "How did lunch go?" he asked as I settled behind the imposing desk that had once been Marcus's. "About as well as could be expected," I replied. "Rebecca's processing. It's a lot for anyone to take in." He nodded sympathetically. "And Nathan?" "That remains to be seen. I imagine he and Rebecca are having a rather difficult conversation right now." Daniel handed me a folder. "These need your signature, official reinstatement paperwork, and the board has requested a formal meeting next week to discuss transition plans." As I reviewed the documents, my phone rang. "Victor." "The news is spreading fast," he reported without preamble. "I've had calls from 3 different business publications. Already, they're all asking for interviews." "Decline for now," I instructed. "We'll issue a formal statement tomorrow after the dust settles internally." "Already drafted," he assured me. "Also, Stephanie Langley has requested a meeting. I think she's worried about Nathan." "Schedule it for tomorrow." Today, I need to focus on reconnecting with key personnel and reviewing department statuses. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and introductions, or reintroductions in many cases. Department heads who had previously reported to Victor now found themselves directly accountable to me. Some seemed excited by the change, others clearly apprehensive about what it might mean for their divisions. By 5 o'clock, I was mentally exhausted but exhilarated. After years of influencing from the shadows, I was finally able to directly shape Meridian's future. The cleaning cart had served its purpose. Now it was time for more visible leadership. As the office began to empty for the day, Olivia Thompson appeared in my doorway looking nervous. "Mrs. Wilson, do you have a moment?" "Of course, Olivia. Come in." She perched on the edge of a chair, clutching a folder. "I wanted to thank you for the opportunity this morning. I've expanded on the sustainable marketing proposal as you requested." I smiled at her eagerness. That was fast. "I've actually been working on it for months," she admitted. "Mr. Parker kept telling me it wasn't ready, but you believed in it anyway," I finished for her. "That's exactly the kind of initiative Meridian needs." We spent the next half hour reviewing her ideas, which were even more impressive in their fully developed form. As she walked me through her vision for positioning Meridian as an ethical leader in the tech industry, I recognized the passion that had driven Marcus and me in the early days, the belief that business could be profitable and purposeful simultaneously. "This is excellent work, Olivia. I'd like you to present the full proposal to the executive team next week." Her eyes widened. "Really? Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Thank you for persisting despite the obstacles. That's a quality we value highly at Meridian." After she left, I stood at the window of my office, looking out over the city as dusk settled. Somewhere out there, Rebecca and Nathan were confronting difficult truths about their relationship. I hoped she would find the clarity she needed, whatever that might mean for their future together. My phone buzzed with a message from Jamal. "Ellie, just heard the news from Hector. Is it true? You're the boss?" I smiled, typing back, "It's true. Still coming to the community center fundraiser tomorrow?" His response was immediate. "Wouldn't miss it. But you buying the whole place now, or what?" Some things thankfully wouldn't change. Jamal would still be Jamal, treating me exactly the same as he had when we cleaned floors together. That authenticity was precious, and increasingly rare as word of my true identity spread. By the time I left the office, night had fallen. The security guard at the executive exit, a young woman I didn't recognize from my maintenance days, nodded respectfully as I passed. Good night, Mrs. Wilson. It felt strange driving home to Pinewood as Eleanor Wilson, CEO, rather than Eleanor. Martinez, cleaner. The modest houses with their warm porch lights seemed somehow more precious now that I'd reclaimed my public identity. This neighborhood had given me something wealth couldn't buy. A community where I was valued for myself, not my position. As I turned onto my street, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked outside my house. Drawing closer, I recognized it as Nathan's sleek silver sedan. He was sitting inside, alone, staring straight ahead. I parked in my driveway and waited. After a moment, he got out and approached, his movements stiff with tension. "Eleanor?" he began, then corrected himself. "Mrs. Wilson, may I speak with you?" "Of course, Nathan. Would you like to come inside?" He glanced at the modest house with its small front porch and garden, as though seeing it with new eyes. "Yes, thank you." Inside, I gestured toward the living room while I put on water for tea, a habit that had always helped me navigate difficult conversations. Nathan stood awkwardly by the fireplace, examining the photos on the mantel. Rebecca's graduation, Marcus and me on our 20th anniversary, the three of us at the beach when Rebecca was 10. "You've talked to Rebecca," I observed, handing him a mug of tea. He accepted it with a nod, not meeting my eyes. "She's upset. Understandably so. It's been a day of significant revelations." Nathan took a seat on the edge of the sofa, placing his untouched tea on the coffee table. "I need to know where things stand, with my position at Meridian. Not with Rebecca," I noted, "with his job. Priorities revealed in a moment of crisis. As I said this morning, your professional future at Meridian depends entirely on your performance and behavior going forward. I have no intention of firing you because of our personal connection, or disconnection, as the case may be." Relief flickered across his face, quickly replaced by caution. "And if Rebecca and if we don't?" If you and Rebecca end your relationship, my professional assessment of your work won't change," I assured him. "Though I imagine it might be uncomfortable for you, knowing your former fiancé's mother is the CEO. He winced at former fiancé. "We haven't ended anything. We're just talking things through." "I'm glad to hear that. Communication is essential in any relationship." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his polished facade crumbling. "Why did you do it? Work as a cleaner in your own company for 7 years. Was it just to spy on people like me?" "It wasn't about you, Nathan. It wasn't about any individual. It was about understanding Meridian from every angle, especially the perspectives often overlooked by leadership." He shook his head in disbelief. "But you're Eleanor Wilson. You could have done anything, gone anywhere. Instead, you scrubbed toilets and emptied trash, and learned more about my company than I ever could have from the executive suite," I replied evenly. "There's dignity in all work, Nathan, something you might consider reflecting on." His jaw tightened. "Rebecca told me what you overheard at the Christmas party. I was networking with Stephanie, trying to advance my career. People say things they don't mean in those situations. Do they? Or do they simply say what they truly think when they believe there are no consequences?" Nathan had no answer for that. He stared into his untouched tea. "Tell me something," I said after a moment. "When you look at Rebecca, what do you see? Not what you tell her, not what you think I want to hear, but what you actually see." He looked startled by the question. "I see a beautiful woman. Kind, supportive of my goals. And her work, her ambitions, her talents?" His hesitation told me everything. "She's creative. Her designs are nice." "Nice," I repeated. "Rebecca is one of the most sought-after graphic designers in the city. Her client list includes 3 Fortune 500 companies. She's been featured in industry magazines and has won national awards. Yet when you describe her, the first things you mention are her appearance and how she supports your goals. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. That's not fair. I respect Rebecca's work. But you don't see it as equal to yours, I observed. You don't see her ambitions as being as important as your climb up the corporate ladder. Our situations are different, he argued. I'm building a career at a major corporation. She freelances from home in yoga pants. There it was. The dismissal I'd suspected lay beneath his polished exterior. In his worldview, corporate ambition trumped entrepreneurial creativity every time. Rebecca has turned down 3 job offers from major design firms because she values her independence and creative control, I informed him. She earns more annually than you do, manages her own client relationships, and has built a reputation entirely on her own merits, not by impressing the right people at cocktail parties. His expression revealed that this was news to him, not because Rebecca had hidden her success, but because he had never bothered to truly understand her work. I didn't know, he mumbled. You never asked, I pointed out. Just as you never asked about my life before you decided I was just a cleaner unworthy of respect. Nathan stood abruptly. I should go. Before you do, I said, remaining seated. Ask yourself this. Do you love Rebecca for who she truly is, or for who you've decided she should be in the story you're writing for yourself? He paused at the door. I do love her. Then prove it. Not to me, to her. Show her that you see her value beyond how she fits into your ambitions. After he left, I sat for a long time with my cooling tea, wondering if anything I'd said had reached him. Nathan wasn't evil, just privileged and narrow in his vision of success. Whether he could expand that vision to truly include Rebecca as an equal partner remained to be seen. My phone chimed with a message from Rebecca. He just left your place. What did you say to him? I typed back carefully. Just the truth. Are you okay? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, I don't know. Can I come over? Of course. I'll wait up. 40 minutes later, Rebecca's car pulled into my driveway. When I opened the door, her eyes were red from crying, but her expression was resolute. I postponed the wedding, she announced as she stepped inside. I drew her into a hug. Oh, sweetheart. Not canceled, she clarified, pulling back. Just postponed, until we figure things out. We moved to the kitchen where I poured her a glass of wine and reheated some leftover pasta, comfort food for a difficult night. He admitted it, she said after taking a long sip. Everything you overheard. Said he was just playing the game with Stephanie, trying to seem more aligned with her values. And what do you think? I asked carefully. Rebecca twisted her engagement ring, a habit she'd developed since Nathan had placed it on her finger. I think he believes that. I also think he doesn't see anything wrong with dismissing my work or your history to advance himself. She looked up at me, eyes suddenly fierce. Did you know I make 20% more than he does? He assumed because he works at a big company and I work from home that he's the breadwinner. Never even asked about my income. That doesn't surprise me, I admitted. It should have surprised me, she said quietly. But it didn't, not really. There have been signs, comments, little things I brushed off because I wanted to believe he respected me. I covered her hand with mine. People can grow, Rebecca. They can learn to see beyond their own limited perspectives. That's why I postponed rather than canceled, she acknowledged. I need to see if he's capable of that growth. We talked, late into the night, about Nathan, about Meridian, about the secrets I'd kept and my reasons for keeping them. By the time Rebecca curled up in her old bedroom around 2 a.m, we had reached a new understanding. The hurt of my deception hadn't fully healed, but she recognized the complexity of my choices. The next morning, I woke early despite the late night. Saturday meant the community center fundraiser, an event I'd been helping organize for months. CEO or cleaner, some commitments remained unchanged. I was in the kitchen baking the promised lemon bars when Rebecca appeared, hair tousled from sleep. "Morning," she mumbled, heading straight for the coffee pot. "Need help?" We worked side by side, falling into an easy rhythm that reminded me of weekend mornings when she was growing up. As she zested lemons, she asked, "Will you keep living here, now that everyone knows who you are?" "This is my home," I replied simply. "My neighbors are my friends. Why would I leave?" She nodded thoughtfully. "What about the cleaning cart? Will you miss it?" The question took me by surprise. In some ways, yes. There was freedom in that invisibility. The ability to observe without being observed, but it served its purpose. Which was to understand Meridian from every angle, to see who we truly are as a company, not just who we claim to be in mission statements and annual reports. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, concentrating on her task. "You know, when I was little, Dad used to tell me that the measure of a person isn't how they treat their equals, but how they treat those they have power over. I never fully understood what he meant until yesterday." "Your father was a wise man," I said, smiling at the memory of Marcus. "So is his wife," Rebecca replied. "Even if she did spend 7 years pushing a cleaning cart instead of running her company from the executive suite." We shared a laugh, the tension of the previous day beginning to dissolve. As we finished packing up the lemon bars, Rebecca's phone chimed with a message. Her expression tightened as she read it. "Nathan?" I guessed. She nodded. "He wants to meet for coffee, to talk. Are you going to go?" She squared her shoulders. "Yes, I need to know if he can see me, really see me, now that his illusions about both of us have been shattered." As she left to shower and change, I found myself hoping Nathan had taken our conversation to heart. Rebecca deserved someone who valued her completely, her talent, her independence, her strength. Whether Nathan could be that person remained to be seen. The community center was already bustling when we arrived, carrying trays of lemon bars. Mrs. Gallagher rushed over to help, her eyes wide with excitement. "Eleanor, is it true? Henry says his brother who works security at Meridian told him you're some big-shot CEO. News traveled fast in Pinewood. "I co-founded the company with my late husband," I confirmed. "But I'm still the same person who volunteers at the book drive and brings lemon bars to fundraisers." Mrs. Gallagher looked momentarily stunned, then broke into a wide grin. "Well, I'll be. Wait till I tell the garden club we've had a secret millionaire in our midst all this time. Bart?" As we set up our contribution to the bake sale, more neighbors approached, some curious, others slightly in awe of this new information. I answered their questions patiently, emphasizing that nothing would change regarding my involvement in community events. Jamal arrived with his family, making a beeline for me through the crowd. "Boss lady?" he called, grinning broadly. "Or should I be calling you Mrs. Wilson now?" "Ellie is still fine, Jamal," I assured him, accepting his enthusiastic hug. His wife Tanisha shook her head in amazement. 7 years cleaning offices when you owned the whole building. I can't wrap my head around it. "It wasn't about the money," I explained. "It was about understanding." "Well, you understand more than most executives, that's for sure," Jamal laughed. "Remember when that VP from marketing, what was his name, Thompson, left his coffee cups everywhere and expected the cleaning lady to pick up after him like his personal maid?" "Peterson," I corrected with a smile. "And yes, I remember. He's no longer with the company, as you might recall." Jamal's eyes widened. "Wait, did you fire him because of how he treated the maintenance staff?" "His dismissal was based on multiple factors," I said diplomatically. "But his treatment of support staff was certainly noted in his performance reviews." As the fundraiser continued, I found myself navigating an interesting new reality. Still Eleanor from Pinewood, but now also publicly Eleanor Wilson, CEO of Meridian Technologies. Most of my neighbors took the revelation in stride, more curious about whether I'd still be judging the chili cook-off next month than about my corporate responsibilities. Around noon, Rebecca returned from her coffee meeting with Nathan. I spotted her across the community center, her expression thoughtful but not devastated, a promising sign. "How did it go?" I asked when she reached my side. "Surprisingly well," she admitted. He was different. More reflective than I've ever seen him. Different how? She considered this. He listened, really listened, when I talked about my work. Asked questions about my client projects instead of just talking about his promotion prospects. And he apologized without qualifiers for what he said about me to Stephanie. "That's a start," I acknowledged. He also said something interesting about you, Rebecca continued. That he's never met anyone who could simultaneously scrub floors and run a multi-million-dollar company with equal commitment. He seemed genuinely impressed, Mom. I raised an eyebrow. Impressed enough to welcome my friends from Pinewood at your wedding? A small smile played at her lips. He suggested we move the reception to the community center so everyone would feel comfortable. I think he was trying to overcompensate. We both laughed at the image. Nathan's status-conscious parents mingling with Pinewood's eclectic residents in the modest community center. "We're still postponing," Rebecca clarified. "I need time to see if this change is genuine and lasting. But for the first time, I feel like he might actually be seeing me, the real me, not just the version of me that fits neatly into his life plan." I squeezed her hand. That's all anyone can ask for, to be truly seen. As the fundraiser wound down, I found myself surrounded by the community that had embraced Eleanor Martinez, the widow who cleaned offices for a living. They were adjusting to the revelation that I was also Eleanor Wilson, CEO and founder of Meridian Technologies. But, fundamentally, nothing had changed. I was still the woman who baked lemon bars, volunteered at events, and chatted over garden fences. The true test would come Monday morning when I walked into Meridian headquarters, no longer pushing a cleaning cart, but carrying the full authority of my position. The transition from invisible observer to visible leader would require adjustments, from everyone, myself included. But as I looked around at the familiar faces of my neighbors, at Rebecca deep in conversation with Mrs. Gallagher about wedding flowers, at Jamal and his family helping clean up, I knew the core of who I was remained, unchanged. Eleanor Martinez and Eleanor Wilson were not separate identities, but complementary aspects of the same person. A woman who understood that true worth had nothing to do with titles or paychecks, and everything to do with how we treat one another, when we think no one important is watching. Monday morning arrived with a strange mixture of familiarity and newness. For 7 years, I'd begun my workdays by donning a gray maintenance uniform. Today, I selected a tailored charcoal suit and pearl earrings, attire befitting Eleanor Wilson, CEO. The drive to Meridian was the same. The parking garage was the same. But instead of taking the service elevator to the maintenance department, I rode the executive elevator directly to the 28th floor. Daniel Chen was waiting when I arrived, tablet in hand. "Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. The executive team is assembled in the conference room for your 8:30 briefing." "Thank you, Daniel." I paused at the threshold of my office, Marcus's old office, now mine again. "Has there been any word from the press?" 4 interview requests since Friday. Victor has deferred them all pending your formal statement. He handed me a folder. "The draft is inside for your review." The conference room fell silent when I entered. 14 faces turned toward me. Department heads and senior executives, most of whom had never interacted directly with Eleanor. Martinez, the cleaner. Some looked curious, others apprehensive. Stephanie Langley from marketing sat rigid in her chair, likely remembering every interaction she'd had with maintenance staff over the years. "Good morning," I began, taking my seat at the head of the table. "I appreciate you all adjusting your schedules for this meeting." I know my reemergence as CEO comes as a surprise to many of you. Victor, seated to my right, gave me an encouraging nod. For 7 years, I've observed Meridian from a unique perspective, I continued. I've watched how decisions made in this room affect employees at every level. I've seen which initiatives truly align with our core values and which merely serve quarterly profit goals. I opened a folder containing notes I'd compiled during my years in maintenance, observations about company culture, operational inefficiencies, and disconnects between leadership messaging and frontline reality. Meridian was founded with a dual mission: to create innovative technology solutions and to operate as a responsible corporate citizen. Somewhere along the way, the second part of that mission became secondary. Today, we begin the process of rebalancing those priorities. For the next hour, I outlined my vision for Meridian's future, emphasizing ethical leadership, sustainability, and employee development. Some executives nodded enthusiastically. Others shifted uncomfortably as they recognized how far their departments had drifted from these principles. I don't expect an overnight transformation, I assured them, but I do expect immediate movement in this direction. Each of you will meet with me individually over the next 2 weeks to develop department-specific action plans. As the meeting concluded, Stephanie Langley lingered, clearly wanting to speak privately. I nodded for her to stay behind. Mrs. Wilson, she began once we were alone, I want to apologize for any unprofessional comments I may have made regarding your daughter or your previous role. I studied her carefully. Stephanie was ambitious and politically savvy, qualities that could serve Meridian well if properly channeled. Nathan's presentation on Friday, I said, ignoring her apology for the moment. How much of it was his original work? She hesitated, weighing loyalty against self-preservation. The framework was collaborative. The team contributed significantly, particularly Olivia Thompson. Yet Nathan presented it as primarily his vision. That's not uncommon in corporate environments, she offered carefully. Perhaps not, but it's not the culture I want for Meridian moving forward. I closed my folder. Stephanie, you have exceptional marketing instincts. Your campaign for our healthcare division increased market share by 17% last quarter. Surprise flickered across her face. You've been tracking specific campaigns? I've been tracking everything, I replied simply, which is why I know you have the potential to lead marketing in a more collaborative, ethical direction, if that's something you're interested in doing. She straightened, sensing opportunity. Absolutely, Mrs. Wilson. I'd welcome the chance to align the department more closely with your vision. Good. Your first challenge is managing Nathan's transition to a new role. Her eyebrows rose. You're reassigning him? I'm offering him a choice: adapt to our new direction or find opportunities elsewhere. His presentation demonstrated considerable skill but misaligned values. Your job is to find a position that maximizes his strengths while minimizing the impact of his interpersonal limitations. Stephanie nodded slowly, understanding the diplomatic challenge. And if he chooses to leave? Then you'll need to develop Olivia Thompson more quickly than planned. I stood, signaling the end of our conversation. I'll need your recommendation by Wednesday. The rest of the morning passed in a flurry of meetings, operations reviews, budget discussions, and press statement refinements. By noon, I needed a break from the executive suite's rarefied atmosphere. I'll be back for the 2 o'clock with finance, I told Daniel, heading for the elevator. Instead of going to the executive dining room, I rode down to the employee cafeteria on the 3rd floor. As I entered, conversations stuttered and then resumed at a lower volume. Employees nudged one another, whispering behind hands as I joined the lunch line. The cafeteria worker serving the daily special did a double take. Mrs. Wilson, we don't usually see executives down here. I've actually eaten here quite often, I replied with a smile. though usually at that corner. Table over there. I nodded toward the small table near the exit where maintenance staff typically sat. Recognition dawned in her eyes. Oh, you're you used to. Wow. Eleanor is fine, I assured her, accepting the plate she offered. Finding an empty table proved challenging. Employees seemed simultaneously eager to observe me and terrified I might join them. Finally, I spotted Jamal waving enthusiastically from the maintenance staff table. "Boss lady, get over here!" Heads turned as I made my way across the cafeteria to join him and 3 other maintenance workers, all of whom had been my colleagues until recently. Their comfort with me was a stark contrast to the wary distance maintained by other employees. "How's the fancy office?" Jamal asked as I sat down. "Bet it doesn't smell like cleaning solution up there." "It smells like politics and expensive. Cologne," I replied dryly, making them laugh. Rita, who had cleaned the executive restrooms for years, leaned forward. "Is it true what they're saying? That you're going to fire all the executives and start fresh?" I shook my head. "Not even close. I'm realigning priorities, not conducting a purge." "Shame," she muttered. "Some of them could use a good purging." The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and insider jokes about the maintenance department's unique perspective on corporate life. Around us, other employees watched with fascination, the CEO of Meridian Technologies casually, dining with the cleaning staff, clearly comfortable and welcome among them. As lunch ended, Jamal walked with me toward the elevator. "You know, people are already treating us differently," he said quietly. "Managers who never bothered to learn our names are suddenly asking how we're doing, offering to help carry equipment." "Is that a problem?" I asked. He considered this. "Not exactly, but it feels calculated. Like they're only being nice because they think we might have your ear now." "And do you have my ear?" Jamal grinned. "Well, I did just have lunch with the CEO. That's gotta count for something." I squeezed his arm. "It counts for everything. And Jamal, if you ever notice those managers slipping back into old habits once the novelty wears off, my door is always open." Back in the executive suite, I found Daniel looking mildly frantic. "There you are. Nathan Parker has been waiting in your office for 20 minutes. He refused to reschedule." I checked my watch. "It's fine. I'm still 10 minutes early for my next meeting." Nathan stood when I entered, his posture rigid with tension. "Mrs. Wilson, thank you for seeing me." "Nathan, this is unexpected." He cleared his throat. "I wanted to discuss my future at Meridian. I understand Stephanie is reviewing potential reassignments for me." News traveled fast. "That's correct. We're looking for a position that better aligns with your skills and our company's direction." His jaw tightened. "I've contributed significantly to marketing's growth over the past 3 years." "Yes, you have." I gestured for him to sit. "Your presentation skills are excellent. Your ability to synthesize complex information into compelling narratives is valuable." "But," he prompted, "but Meridian is realigning with its founding principles, which include collaborative innovation and ethical leadership. Your individual talents will need to be exercised within that framework." Nathan's expression remained carefully neutral. "And if I don't fit within that framework? Then you'll need to decide if adaptation is possible or if your ambitions would be better served elsewhere." He was quiet for a moment, eyes fixed on a point just over my shoulder. "Rebecca tells me you began with nothing, that you and Marcus built Meridian from scratch." The change of subject surprised me. "That's right. Our first office was our garage in Blue Harbor. And now you're worth—" He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable discussing money directly. "The company has been successful, yes." Nathan leaned forward. "What I'm trying to understand is, why pretend to be a cleaner for 7 years when you had already achieved that level of success? What was the point?" It was a fair question, One I'd been asked in various forms since revealing myself. It wasn't pretending, Nathan. I actually was a cleaner. The work was real. But why? You had nothing left to prove. And there was the fundamental disconnect between us, the assumption that work only had value if it served ambition or status. I wasn't trying to prove anything, I explained patiently. I was trying to learn, to understand how Meridian functioned from every level, to see which of our values were lived and which were merely words in an employee handbook. He shook his head, still not comprehending. But the board would have told you anything you wanted to know. You could have hired consultants. Those at the top rarely see the full truth, Nathan. People tell them what they want to hear, show them what they want to see. I smiled slightly. But no one bothers to hide anything from the cleaning lady. Understanding slowly dawned in his eyes. So all those times I was on calls in the conference room while you emptied trash cans. I was listening, I confirmed. Not just to you, to everyone. Learning who stayed late to help their teams meet deadlines, who treated support staff with respect regardless of whether it benefited them, who lived our values when they thought no one who mattered was watching. Nathan looked genuinely disturbed by this revelation. And based on that, you've been… what? Judging who deserves to advance? Observing who embodies the principles that built this company, I corrected. Leadership isn't just about talent or ambition, Nathan. It's about character. He stood abruptly. I should let you get to your next meeting. Nathan, I said as he reached the door. How is Rebecca? Something flickered across his face. Pain, perhaps, or regret. She's reconsidering things. Us. The wedding. He hesitated. I don't suppose you'd put in a good word for me. That wouldn't be appropriate, I replied gently. Rebecca needs to make her own decision based on who you truly are, not who I or anyone else tells her you are. After he left, I remained at my desk, reflecting on our conversation. Nathan was intelligent and driven, qualities that could serve him well if paired with greater empathy and ethical awareness. Whether he could develop those qualities remained to be seen. The afternoon proceeded with back-to-back meetings, budget, reviews, strategic planning sessions, and a detailed discussion of Olivia Thompson's sustainable marketing proposal. By 5 o'clock, my head was swimming with financial projections and department restructuring plans. As the office quieted for the evening, I found myself drawn to the windows overlooking the city. From 28 floors up, Meridian's position, at the heart of the business district, was evident, a glass and steel monument to technological innovation and corporate success. Yet from this height, I couldn't see the people who kept the building running, the security guards, maintenance workers, cafeteria staff, the invisible infrastructure that supported everything happening in the executive suite. My phone buzzed, with a message from Rebecca. Dinner tonight? Need to talk. We arranged to meet at a small Italian restaurant halfway between our homes. When I arrived, Rebecca was already seated, absently twisting her engagement ring, a habit that betrayed her inner turmoil. Mom, she greeted me with a quick hug. How was your first official day back in the executive suite? Illuminating, I replied, settling across from her. Everyone's adjusting to the new reality, some more gracefully than others. She nodded, her expression serious. I saw Nathan today. He said you're reassigning him? We're exploring options that would better suit his talents and our company's direction, I explained carefully. It's a standard process when leadership changes. Rebecca's eyes narrowed slightly. And it has nothing to do with his being your future son-in-law. Former future son-in-law, I corrected gently. Unless something has changed? She sighed, finally ceasing the nervous twisting of her ring. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I've been doing a lot of thinking since Friday. Our waiter arrived with menus, providing a momentary reprieve from the weighty conversation. After ordering, Rebecca continued. Nathan came to see me this morning. He was different, reflective. He said talking with you made him realize how narrow his definition of success has been. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. People often say what they think others want to hear when facing consequences. I know, she acknowledged. That's why I'm not rushing back into anything. But he asked questions about my work. Real questions, Mom. About my design process, my client relationships, my business model. He'd clearly researched industry terms so he could understand what I was saying. That's encouraging, I admitted. It's a start, she agreed. He also mentioned something interesting about your conversation. Said you told him leadership isn't just about talent or ambition, but about character. I nodded. It's something your father and I always believed. It made me think about my own work, Rebecca continued. I've always focused on the creative aspects of design, but there's leadership in what I do too. Guiding clients toward ethical visual communication, mentoring junior designers. She smiled wryly. Lessons from both my parents, I guess, even if I didn't realize it. Our food arrived, and we ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. I studied my daughter across the table, her confident posture, the thoughtful intelligence in her eyes. Whatever she decided about Nathan, I knew she would make the choice from a position of strength, not dependency. There's something else, she said eventually. I've been approached about teaching a course at the Art Institute, Ethical Practices in Commercial Design. It would be 1 evening a week. That sounds perfect for you, I enthused. Will you take it? She nodded. I already accepted. Nathan's reaction was interesting. Before all this happened, he probably would have seen it as a distraction from supporting his career. But today, he seemed genuinely excited for me. She hesitated. He asked if he could attend my first lecture. And will you let him? I'm considering it, she admitted. As a test, I guess, to see if this new perspective is real or just a reaction to Friday's shock. I reached across the table to cover her hand with mine. Rebecca, whatever you decide about Nathan, I want you to know I trust your judgment. You're insightful and strong, stronger than I was at your age. I don't know about that, she demurred. You built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. With your father's help, I reminded her, and it took me years to develop the confidence you already possess. The way you've handled this situation, taking time to reflect rather than making impulsive decisions, shows remarkable maturity. Her eyes welled unexpectedly. That means a lot coming from you, especially now that I know the full extent of what you've accomplished. As we finished our meal, our conversation shifted to lighter topics. Her upcoming design projects, my plans for repositioning Meridian in the market, the community center's fall festival planning. By the time we parted in the restaurant parking lot, the tension had eased from Rebecca's shoulders. One more thing, she said as she unlocked her car. I'm moving my office out of the house. I found a small studio space in the Arts District, more professional for client meetings and better separation between work and home. The subtext was clear. Whether or not she stayed with Nathan, she was reclaiming her professional identity as separate from her domestic life. That sounds like a positive step, I approved. Let me know if you need help moving equipment. Actually, she smiled, Jamal already offered his truck when I mentioned it at the fundraiser. Said he'd bring his son to help with the heavy lifting. The mention of Jamal reminded me of how seamlessly my two worlds were beginning to merge. Eleanor. Wilson the CEO and Eleanor Martinez the cleaner, both equally real aspects of who I was. Back home in Pinewood, I found Mrs. Gallagher waiting on my porch with a casserole dish. Eleanor, I figured you might be too busy for cooking now that you're running that big company again. She handed me the dish with a flourish. Chicken, Devon. My mother's recipe. That's so thoughtful, Diane. Thank you. I accepted the dish gratefully. Though I should warn you, being CEO doesn't mean I'll have less time for community events. If anything, I'll need them more to stay grounded. She beamed. Good, because the garden club is counting on your expertise for the fall planting. CEO or not, nobody grows better roses in Pinewood. After she left, I settled on my porch swing, with a glass of wine, watching darkness settle over the neighborhood. Lights came on in windows, families gathered for dinner, dogs were walked along sidewalks. This ordinary rhythm of life had sustained me through 7 years of dual identity, a constant reminder of what really mattered beyond corporate success. My phone chimed with an email notification from Victor. Press statement approved for release. Tomorrow morning. First interviews scheduled for Thursday if you're ready. The outside world was clamoring for Eleanor Wilson's story, the CEO who went undercover in her own company for 7 years. Business publications wanted to know the strategic purpose. Human interest reporters sought the emotional angle. Everyone wanted to understand why a wealthy, powerful woman would choose to clean offices rather than occupying the executive suite. The truth was both simpler and more complex than they might expect. It hadn't been a calculated business strategy or a psychological experiment. It had been a search for authentic understanding of Meridian, of the people who made it function, and ultimately, of myself. Tuesday morning arrived with a sense of growing momentum. The press statement had been released at 6 a.m., and by the time I reached Meridian's headquarters, my inbox was flooded with interview requests and messages from business associates who had just learned of my return. Daniel met me at the elevator, tablet in hand. Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. Quite a response to the announcement. Anything unexpected? I asked as we walked toward my office. Nothing concerning. The business press is treating it as a fascinating case study in leadership. Some are calling it revolutionary, a CEO who truly understands every level of operations. And internally? Daniel smiled slightly. Let's just say the maintenance department is enjoying their newfound status. Executives who never acknowledged them before are suddenly very attentive. That won't last, I observed dryly. No, he agreed. But the policy changes you're implementing will. My first meeting of the day was with the HR department to discuss exactly those changes. Revised compensation structures that would narrow the gap between executive and support staff salaries, expanded educational benefits for all employees, and a new promotion pathway that would allow talented individuals to advance regardless of their starting position. Some of the board members may resist these measures, warned Terrence Hayes, the HR director. They represent a significant shift in resource allocation. The board has already approved the framework, I informed him. What we're discussing today is implementation. By noon, word of the proposed changes had spread throughout the building. As I made my way to the cafeteria, a habit I intended to maintain, I could feel the shift in atmosphere. Employees who had previously averted, their eyes now offered tentative smiles or nods of acknowledgement. Jamal waved me over to the maintenance table again, grinning broadly. Heard about the new education benefits. My son's been wanting to take those programming courses at the community college. Applications open next month, I confirmed, joining them. And Jamal, make sure he knows about the internship program we're expanding. We'll need talented programmers who understand systems from the ground up. The afternoon brought a different kind of challenge, my first formal meeting with Nathan since our conversation the previous day. Stephanie had scheduled it to discuss his potential reassignment, and I'd intentionally included Olivia Thompson to observe the dynamics. Nathan arrived precisely on time, his expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Wilson, Ms. Langley, Ms. Thompson. Thank you for joining us, Nathan, I began, gesturing toward the conference table. Stephanie has been working on a reorganization of the marketing department that we believe could better utilize everyone's strengths. Stephanie took over, outlining the proposed structure. We're creating 2 distinct divisions within marketing, traditional campaigns and sustainable initiatives. Olivia will head the latter, focusing on implementing her proposal across all product lines. Nathan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. And my role in this restructuring? We're creating a new position, Stephanie continued smoothly. Director of Client Relations. You would be the bridge between both divisions and our major accounts, ensuring consistent messaging while implementing our new ethical framework. The position was a lateral move rather than a promotion, something Nathan clearly recognized immediately. Yet it played to his strengths in presentation and client management while placing him within a structure that would check his less collaborative tendencies. I see, he said after a moment. And if I were to decline this opportunity? Then we would need to discuss separation terms, I replied evenly. Meridian is changing, Nathan. Every employee needs to decide if they can adapt to our renewed focus on ethical leadership and collaborative innovation. Olivia, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. For what it's worth, I think you'd be excellent in this role. Your presentation skills are unmatched, and clients respond well to you. We could accomplish a lot together if we combined my content development with your delivery expertise. Her generosity clearly caught Nathan off guard. This was the same colleague whose ideas he had repeatedly sidelined, yet here she was, offering him a professional olive branch. I'll need time to consider the offer, he finally said. Of course, Stephanie agreed. We'd like your decision by Friday. After Nathan and Stephanie departed, Olivia lingered. Mrs. Wilson, may I ask something candidly? Please do. Are you giving him this chance because of his relationship with your daughter? It was a fair question, one I'd asked myself repeatedly during the past few days. No, I answered honestly. I'm giving him this chance because every person deserves the opportunity to grow beyond their limitations. Some take that opportunity, others don't. But the offer must be genuine either way. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. That's a more compassionate approach than most executives would take. Compassion and business success aren't mutually exclusive, I pointed out. In fact, I've found they often reinforce each other when applied with clear boundaries and expectations. After she left, I turned my attention to the stack of reports awaiting review. The transition back to Eleanor Wilson, CEO, was proving both familiar and strange, like returning to a childhood home to find the furniture rearranged. The fundamental structure remained, but the details required readjustment. Around 6:30, as I was preparing to leave for the day, my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice came through, unusually hesitant. Mrs. Wilson? There's a Mr. Parker here to see you, Nathan Parker. I checked my watch, surprised. Send him in. Nathan entered looking uncharacteristically rumpled, as though he'd been running his hands through his hair repeatedly. He declined my offer to sit. I've been thinking about the position all afternoon, he began without preamble. Weighing options, calling contacts at other companies to explore alternatives. That's prudent, I acknowledged. Then I realized something. He paced to the window and back. Every alternative I considered involved the same pattern: finding people to impress, adapting myself to their expectations, climbing a ladder someone else built. I waited, curious where this self-reflection was leading. The position you're offering, it's not a promotion, he continued, but it's something I've never considered before. A chance to build something new, something with meaning beyond just advancing my career. That's one way to look at it, I agreed carefully. Nathan took a deep breath. I'm accepting the position. Not because I don't have other options, but because I want to see if I can become the kind of person who deserves Rebecca's respect. And yours. The naked honesty in his voice was so unexpected that for a moment I could only stare at him. This wasn't the calculated response of a corporate climber. It was the uncertain beginning of genuine self-examination. That's a worthy goal, Nathan, I said finally. Though I should point out that respect isn't something you earn once and possess forever. It's something you demonstrate worthiness of through consistent action. I'm beginning to understand that. He hesitated. There's something else. I've been thinking about what you said, about leadership being about character, not just talent or ambition. Yes? I realized I've never actually thought about what kind of leader I want to be, just that I wanted to be one. His smile was self-deprecating. Pretty shallow, isn't it? It's a starting point, I offered. The question is where you go from there. Nathan squared his shoulders. I'd like to learn, not just how to advance my career, but how to lead with the kind of integrity I've seen in you, even when you were pushing a cleaning cart. It was perhaps the first genuine compliment he'd ever paid me, one based not on my position or wealth, but on the character he'd glimpsed beneath the maintenance uniform. Leadership development is a lifetime journey, I told him. But if you're sincere about pursuing it, Meridian has resources that can help. He nodded, looking both relieved and apprehensive, a man stepping onto an unfamiliar path, unsure where it might lead but determined to find out. After he left, I remained at my desk, pondering this unexpected turn. Nathan Parker was not transformed. Such fundamental change doesn't happen overnight, if it happens at all. But he had taken a first tentative step towards something beyond his narrow ambition. Whether that step would lead to genuine growth remained to be seen. Whether it would be enough to rebuild his relationship with Rebecca was another question entirely. But for the first time, I found myself genuinely hoping he would succeed in becoming the person he glimpsed potential for in himself. As I finally gathered my things to leave, my phone chimed with a message from Rebecca. Nathan just called. Told me about accepting the new position. Said some things I've never heard from him before about wanting to be worthy of respect. Your influence? I typed carefully. His choice. People can surprise us if given the opportunity. Her response came quickly. Having dinner with him tomorrow, taking it slow, one day at a time. Wise approach, I replied. Love you. Driving home to Pinewood, I reflected on the rapid evolution of the past few days. The revelation of my true identity had created ripples that continued to spread outward, affecting relationships and perceptions in ways I couldn't have fully anticipated. Yet beneath all the external changes, certain constants remained. My home in Pinewood, my connection to the community, my commitment to the values that had guided Marcus and me from the beginning. The cleaning cart had served its purpose, revealing truths that would now inform my leadership as the visible CEO of Meridian Technologies. Tomorrow would bring press interviews, board presentations, and the 1,000 details of corporate leadership. But tonight, I would enjoy Mrs. Gallagher's chicken divan on my porch swing, watching the fireflies emerge in my garden as darkness settled over Pinewood. Eleanor Martinez and Eleanor Wilson, two aspects of the same person, finally unified in the full light of day. 3 months passed in a whirlwind of transformation. Meridian Technologies had recaptured its founding spirit under my visible leadership, implementing the changes I'd quietly planned during 7 years behind a cleaning cart. The media fascination with my story eventually faded, replaced by genuine interest in Meridian's ethical business practices and sustainable initiatives. Olivia Thompson's division had already secured 4 major contracts with companies equally committed to responsible technology development. Nathan, somewhat surprisingly, had found his footing in the client relations role, leveraging his presentation skills while gradually embracing the collaborative approach I'd insisted upon. Today's board meeting had concluded with unanimous approval of our employee education expansion, a program that would open advancement opportunities to every level of the company, from maintenance to management. As the boardroom emptied, Victor lingered behind, a satisfied smile on his face. You've accomplished more in 3 months than most CEOs manage in 3 years, he observed, though I suppose you had a 7-year head start on planning. I laughed, gathering my notes. Having the perspective of both the executive suite and the maintenance closet certainly helps cut through bureaucracy. Speaking of perspective, Victor said, "How are things with Rebecca and Nathan?" The question was asked casually, but I knew Victor's genuine concern for my daughter's happiness. Over 20 years of friendship, he'd watched Rebecca grow from a spirited child into the confident woman she'd become. "Cautiously optimistic," I replied. "They're still taking things slowly. The wedding remains postponed, but they're in couples counseling." Nathan's idea, surprisingly. "People can change when properly motivated," Victor observed. "Some can," I agreed. "Nathan seems to be one of them. The real test will be whether the changes stick once the novelty wears off." We walked together toward the executive elevator. As the doors opened, Jamal emerged pushing his cleaning cart, breaking into a wide grin when he spotted me. "Boss lady? Just the person I wanted to see." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "My son got accepted into the internship program. The letter came today." I accepted his enthusiastic hug. "That's wonderful news, Jamal. Development team, right?" "Software engineering," he confirmed proudly. "First in our family to go into tech." "He'll be brilliant," I assured him. "Make sure he comes to the summer mentorship mixer. I want to introduce him to our senior engineers." After Jamal continued on his way, Victor gave me a thoughtful look. "You know, when most executives talk about knowing every level of their company, they mean they've reviewed the org chart. You actually lived it." "Best decision I ever made," I replied simply. That evening, I hosted dinner at my Pinewood home, a celebration of small victories and new beginnings. Rebecca and Nathan arrived first, followed by Jamal and his family. Then Olivia and several other Meridian employees whose talents I'd recognized during my years in maintenance. Mrs. Gallagher came bearing her famous apple pie, and Victor completed our eclectic gathering. As conversations flowed around my dining table, I observed the unlikely connections forming. Nathan deep in conversation with Jamal's son about coding languages, Rebecca showing Olivia her latest design portfolio, Mrs. Gallagher discussing community, gardening with Victor. This seamless integration of my two worlds felt like the culmination of everything I'd worked toward. After dinner, as everyone moved to the backyard where string lights illuminated the garden Marcus had planted, Rebecca joined me in the kitchen. "You seem happy, Mom," she observed, helping load the dishwasher. "I am," I confirmed. "Everything feels aligned, finally. No more compartmentalized identities." Rebecca nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately, how we present different versions of ourselves in different contexts, how sometimes those versions conflict." From the window, we could see Nathan chatting animatedly with Jamal, gesturing as though explaining something complex. 3 months ago, such a scene would have been unimaginable. "He's really trying," Rebecca said, following my gaze. "Not just with me, but with himself. The counselor says he's doing the hard work of examining his core values." "And what do you think?" I asked. She smiled, a quiet confidence in her expression. "I think we're both becoming better versions of ourselves, together and independently. The studio space has been transformative for my work. And seeing Nathan question his assumptions about success, it's like watching someone wake up." Later, as guests began departing, Nathan approached me by the rose garden. "Mrs. Wilson, Eleanor, thank you for including me tonight. You're part of this extended family now, Nathan. Whatever happens between you and Rebecca, that connection remains." He nodded, understanding the subtle boundary I'd established. "I've been meaning to thank you for something else, too. The cleaning cart." My eyebrow raised in surprise. "The cleaning cart?" "If you hadn't taken that unconventional path, if you'd just been Rebecca's successful CEO mother from the beginning, I might never have confronted my own prejudices, never questioned why I automatically dismissed certain people as unimportant." He smiled ruefully. "Sometimes we need our assumptions shattered to see the truth." As the final guests departed and Rebecca and Nathan headed to their cars, my daughter embraced me tightly. Love you, Mom. Both versions of you. Always. I watched them drive away, standing in my garden under the same stars that had witnessed my journey from garage startup to corporate success to maintenance worker and back again. The cleaning cart had taught me more than any executive seminar ever could about Meridian, about leadership, and most importantly, about the true measure of a person's character. Eleanor Martinez and Eleanor Wilson were no longer separate identities but integrated aspects of who I had always been. A woman who understood that genuine worth isn't determined by titles or positions, but by how we treat others when we think. No one important is watching. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.